What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Improvement for Imbeciles podcast. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how to start thinking of solutions to your problems rather than dwelling on the problem itself. If you're new here, my name's Natalie, and this is where I share ways in which I'm getting my shit together so that you can get your shit together. If you're viewing this on my YouTube channel, I'm actually going to be doing my makeup at the same exact time as this podcast, so it's going to be kind of like a get ready with me, except I'm not going to be going through the steps of my makeup routine. If you're interested in a video like that where I go over my makeup routine, let me know down in the comments, because I know a lot of you always say, oh my god, I love your makeup, and I would love to show you guys exactly the products I use and how I beat my face, even though today it's literally just going to be me covering my pimples and, making myself look presentable. I don't know. And during this podcast episode, I'm going to be using my own experiences to really give you guys an outlook of how I've adopted this perspective of always seeking out solutions to my problems rather than dwelling on the problem itself, while also validating the problems I have in life. When you're too solution focused, you can lose sight of your own emotions and why something actually bothers you. This has happened for me so many different times where I felt so lost in trying to solve a problem in my life where I forgot about how that problem actually made me feel. I felt almost numb to my own problems. And so if you're watching this video and you're already very solution focused, you might notice that you're a lot more hyper independent than you think. And that's what happened for me, especially when it comes to things like my emotions or what's going on with me. It's very difficult for me to get vulnerable enough to ask for help or maybe ask for a second opinion on my own emotions. If you're anything like me, you are the therapist friend, right? You're the friend that people go to when they have problems because you're so good at solving problems, but not necessarily your own problems. Like somehow you still have problems that you're attached to. Even if you found the solution to those problems, you still have this part of you that's almost gratified by having this certain problem in your life. And I'm just gonna go over a situation in my life that happened that was similar to what I'm describing to you guys. And it just happens to be a relationship. So I was in a relationship with this person and they kept losing their job. But here I was extremely lost. I was just journaling about it. I was feeling so depressed, even though every single aspect of myself was telling me the solution is to leave this person. This person and you don't have the same values. They're lying to you about small things. They keep losing their job. And it's nothing about like that person or the connection we had, but it was just this idea that I felt like I was choosing this person over myself, over my own sanity. And I felt like I had to take after this person. And so that being said, what you'll often notice if you're very good at solving other people's problems is you often hold on to other people's problems and try to solve them as a distraction from your own problems. And this is precisely what I was doing in this relationship I was in. I was solving this person's problems. I was giving this person all of this energy. Meanwhile, my life wasn't where I wanted it to be. Meanwhile, I had all of these internal problems that I was struggling to face. And the reason I bring up this story isn't to, bash the other person. It's genuinely to just show you guys, like, sometimes we are obsessed with our own problems. And we cannot see an out to those problems because of the fact that we are still attached to them in some way. That problem is gratifying us in a way that we don't necessarily see from the outside. And yes, it doesn't make logical sense to hold on to a problem, but a lot of us hold on to problems not because it's a logical reason we're doing it, it's because it's a part of our identity. Am I the problem? Am I the problem? Yes, you most likely are the problem. And this is so silly to think about because, why would we want to hold on to problems in our life? Why wouldn't we choose the easier solution to our problems? The reality is we are often so deeply attached to the problems we have in our life that we almost lose ourselves in them. A lot of you probably initially resonated with this video title because you dream of a world where you don't have any problems. You are able to handle your problems. You're not overwhelmed. And while that's a fun fantasy to live in, It's not reality. There will always be another problem to fix in your life. There will always be the next thing to conquer. But learning how to stay grounded and learning how to choose which problems you want in your life is essential for actually choosing the problems that have a higher reward and also will make you a lot more fulfilled when you actually solve them. Now, what do I mean by learning how to choose a problem? It's kind of learning how to pick a struggle. We are always going to struggle in life. We are always going to have problems that come to the surface. But oftentimes we end up picking the struggle that's actually harder for us in the long run. For example, you might have a problem with binge eating. You think of a world where you're able to maintain a healthy diet and keep your health a priority. However, the discipline it takes for you to choose to refrain from binge eating, to choose to have healthier habits, maybe go to the gym, maybe do something that makes you feel a lot better about yourself, seems a lot harder than doing something for yourself that is actually detrimental. And this is precisely why so many people choose to do things that harm themselves despite the fact that it's not good for them. And the reason I say choose is because there is a choice there. Although people do have mental illnesses and all of these things that can contribute to the reasons why you're doing something, that doesn't mean there isn't a choice there. That doesn't mean you don't still have free will. And this is a very hard pill to swallow, but it's a necessary pill to swallow, because when you acknowledge that you have autonomy and that you have a choice, it removes yourself from blaming all of these things that you might happen to have. Mental illness is very real. Depression is very real. Having difficult things happen to you in life is very real. Nobody is denying that, and you are valid in your experience, 100%. But when you finally acknowledge to look in the mirror and look at why you are attached to the problems in your life, you will be set free from this idea that you aren't causing some of the problems. Most of the time, you're not causing all of them. You might only be causing 20% of the problems in your life. But when you remove the 20% of the problems that you cause in your life, or choose different problems, choose different struggles, choose the struggle of going to the gym and feeling like crap when you wake up and feeling like, ugh, I do not want to go to the gym right now. Choosing that struggle instead of choosing the struggle where you sit in bed all day and also feel like crap about yourself because you know you should have gone to the gym this morning, you'll start to see your efforts pay off, because it shows in your discipline and it shows in your conviction. It shows in your dedication to what you're trying to do, the reality you're trying to create. So learning to become solution-oriented isn't learning how to eliminate problems. It's just learning to choose the problems that might not be the easiest at first. However, it'll be the best for you in the long run. A lot of the problems in my day-to-day life were caused by my need for instant gratification. This desire I had to instantly feel good about myself. But Rome was not built in a day. You are not going to feel like the best version of yourself in just one day. That's unrealistic, bestie. Start looking at your habits and why you choose to do things that are actually harming you. Most of the time, it feels good at first. The things that are the worst for us in life often feel really good when we're doing them. And so when I say pick a struggle, I need you to ask yourself, is the struggle I'm about to pick in my life going to keep me in the same spot? Is this going to make me stagnate? Is this not contributing to my highest, most best self? And I know that sounds cheesy to think about, but genuinely start asking yourself these questions when you go for that thing that gives you instant validation. When you choose something that makes you feel really, really good at first, but you know is not actually good for you. I'm not saying learning how to solve your problems is easy. I'm saying it's necessary. And I'm not saying that you won't have problems that come up later. You'll just finally have problems that will actually make you feel good. How do I solve this problem? I'm so glad I have this problem instead of having a different problem. I'm so glad I have the problem of feeling like crap about myself going to the gym than having the problem of me sitting in bed and feeling like crap about myself for not going to the gym. I want to tell you guys a story that really, really resonated with me. I'm working for this new company called Circles. The owners of Circles essentially had a really bad experience with Yelp, where they had a company and they got really, really good reviews on Yelp. And so Yelp saw that they were like a 4.8 5-star business and called them up and went, hey, you need to pay us to keep these reviews up. And the owners were like, absolutely not. We're not going to pay you guys. That doesn't make any sense. Their company, Tech2You, went from a 5-star place to a 2-star place pretty much overnight, just because Yelp has this monopoly on recommendation apps. You go to Google Maps and you see businesses with their ratings on Google Maps. However, these ratings aren't actually real ratings. Yelp is making companies pay to keep these ratings up, so you don't actually know whether or not a Yelp review is actually valid or not. And so obviously the owners of this company had a really, really big problem. However, because they were solution focused, they asked themselves, what can we do to overthrow Yelp? And so instead of crying and letting their business go under because of Yelp reviews, they created Circles. And it's basically like a social recommendation app where people can share their favorite businesses to their circle, anyone in your inner circle essentially. And the reason I'm telling you guys this is because instead of focusing on the negativity of all of the problems they had, they decided to make an app that was a lot more positive, and instead of extorting local businesses, uplift local businesses. And so when it comes to solving problems in your own life, think of yourself as a business entity, okay? If you were the CEO of your company, how would you treat the problems in your life? Would you find solutions for them, or would you dwell over the problems? Would you choose to focus on the negativity like Yelp, or would you rise above the ashes like Circles? It's your choice. And so for the rest of this video, I'm going to be going into how to shift to the solution-focused mindset. First things first, write down how you feel. Learn how to acknowledge the problem itself. I think a lot of people undermine actually acknowledging what the problem is because they don't even know what the problem is. They're not even aware of how they're contributing to the problems in their life because they have this gratification with it. Again, going back to what we were saying in the beginning, you are being gratified through the problems in your life, and you don't even want to acknowledge the problems in your life because that takes the fun away from it. Even though it's not actually taking away from the problems in your life, being able to acknowledge and sit down with yourself, journal, analyze, introspect about the various things that you are going through is one of the most important ways to not only connect with yourself, but connect with your higher self. Connect with the person that you're trying to step into. I really had to do this to myself when I was holding on to that relationship I was talking about in the beginning. I was very, very shut down from myself, and I was very disconnected from myself because I was trying to solve other people's problems before solving my own problems. And you might also acknowledge a certain savior complex you had. So again, I had a savior complex. I was worried about so many other people's problems, and I was providing value to so many people to solve their own problems. But when it came to myself, I was very wounded and I didn't know how to heal myself. Number 2, if your problem was a person, like personify this problem, right? If this problem was a person, would you be giving it as much attention as you're giving it? Or would you allow it to be a little bit more like an acquaintance? Because sometimes we cannot solve the problem because we're so attached to the problem, right? We're very codependent with this problem. We are so obsessed with solving this problem that we won't take ourselves out and give ourselves space to see the problem from a different perspective. Sometimes when you're way too close to a situation, you need to gain insight through distance. I've said this in some of my other videos, but it's one of the most important things. Like, you cannot see something clearly when you're super close to it. If someone was holding something to your nose like this, you can't really read it that well. You have to be cross-eyed in order to read something that's this close to you. When you gain distance, you are able to see a problem so that it's in sight, but it's not out of reach. You're able to see it for what it is because you've separated yourself from it. You are not the problem. You have a problem, but you are not that problem. When you separate yourself from the problem and gain more distance from it, you can start seeing it from a more logical perspective rather than dwelling on it, rather than feeling like this is all I am. Number 3 is to make a pros and cons list. Oftentimes we inflate the problem when in reality it can be solved with a simple analysis of what are the pros of choosing this, what are the cons of choosing this. Identify which stage you're at in the problem solving stage. Sometimes you're in analysis paralysis where you're analyzing the problem so much that you're forgetting to take action and do what's best for you and do what you know you need to do. Other times you're numb to the problem. You're not even aware that it is a problem. And so sometimes you need to go more into that analysis because you've been numbing out yourself and you've become so numb to this problem that you don't even think it's a problem. You deep down know it's a problem, but you don't want to identify that it's a problem because that means you need to change it. Awareness is both a gift and a curse because once you become aware that you need to change something, once you become aware that a thing in your life has become a problem, the more that you continue to do it, the more you are denying yourself a better reality, the more you are causing yourself more problems, because then it'll become a shame thing. Then you'll start to shame yourself for continuing to do something that is not good for you. Which brings me to number 4. Realize that you're human. I think the biggest point that a lot of people miss when it comes to solving problems in their life is they forget to realize their own humanness. They forget to acknowledge that we are human, that we are going to self-sabotage, that we are sometimes not going to make the best choices for ourselves, that we are going to fall back into bad patterns. But it is so essential to acknowledge that's okay. So when you acknowledge a problem in your life, that doesn't mean that you are a problem. That doesn't mean that you don't need to care for yourself. You don't need to hold this over your head. You don't need to shame yourself for it and be like, I am the bad thing. The difference between shame and guilt is shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. When you acknowledge that you've done something bad, you've sabotaged yourself, you've kept something in your life you weren't supposed to keep, you've done something to yourself that might be harmful, the worst thing you can do is shame yourself for that and deny yourself of what you so desperately need in order to move on, which is empathy, which is compassion. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I understand why you did this and I forgive you. Forgive yourself for what you did with your level of awareness. Now you are aware though. So what are you going to do about it? You've become aware that something is a problem. So now what's the solution? When you start focusing on solutions rather than shaming yourself and going into this guilt spiral of like, I'm this horrible person, you can stop shaming yourself for everything and you can finally acknowledge how amazing you're doing. You acknowledge these things. You've overcome them. I am so proud of you for overcoming them. Like, look at yourself and go, I am proud of me for overcoming the things that I never thought I'd be able to overcome. You are so strong. You are so powerful. Start talking to yourself like this and you'll start to believe it. Also start acknowledging that you can do it. Stop having this victim mindset of, oh, I can't do it because, this problem isn't mine. Right? This idea that you aren't causing your own problems, even if you're contributing them a little, right? You aren't causing all of your own problems. I think we can all acknowledge that there's things in our life that we can't control, but the things we can control are so essential in getting opportunities and learning how to pick the right struggles. You are always going to have problems. It's about learning how to pick the struggle that gives you the best results. And oftentimes picking that struggle that'll give you the better results is easier in the long run. For example, choosing not to share your creative endeavors with people might sound like the easier thing to do. It's easier not to be judged by other people. However, you have to acknowledge when you're lying to yourself. Is it actually easier to let your dream die inside of you? Is it easier to work that job? Is it easier to go to school just because your family wants you to go to school and it's what you're supposed to do in society? Are these things easier, or does it take more effort than you just going out on a limb and believing in yourself? Because oftentimes, once you put in that work, yeah, it might be a lot more work up front, but once it starts paying off, here you are getting paid to do what you want to do in life, all because you had the courage to share your own creativity. So sometimes your problems are literally coming from you not embracing who you actually are. Are you denying yourself of yourself? And lastly, identify if the problem is something that you can outsource. Ask yourself if there's a solution that you can do that is readily available to you, whether that is outsourcing it, whether that is doing it. And if you're not doing it, identify if it's because you're lazy or it's because you're actually incapable. And if you're actually incapable, how can you find another way? Can you get someone else to do it for you? Think of yourself as a business entity and then make decisions based on being the CEO of yourself. Genuinely. I know that sounds weird, but it literally has helped me solve so many problems in my own life. With that being said, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Improvement for Imbeciles podcast. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, follow all my social medias, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay stupid, my friends. I'll see you in the next one.